laughed. He said, anytime I can help. So it's always good to sort of reach out to other realtors and get those extra little bits of bonus.
Yeah. Sorry guys, just so you know, I just hit record on this. I have a hard time remembering to record these little training sessions, and I now have this sticky note sitting on the bottom of my screen. It's kind of funny. So yeah, subject, to the seller ceasing to be obligated under the previously accepted contract, dated such and such, or whatever information you can get from the listing realtor to identify that contract on or before X date. Usually there'll be a condition date associated with it. You can get the condition date from the listing realtor, and that condition, it could be the date of subject removal. But that really depends on whether or not you and your clients want to be sitting up until midnight. There's a couple of different ways you can go about it. Usually I would write it for the day after. And then there's actually some additional terminology to give consideration with. And
I guess on the other hand, I know there's always a risk and a downside. You're going to go in and start cutting things up and stuff, and
Ron, are you weighing in on this, or are you?
I guess I need to know, what is, is it?
I'll just mute Ron for now. So, with that subject, a couple of interesting little additional terms that you can add. For example, the seller agrees not to extend or basically allow for an extension or additional terms or obligations to the current buyer. So you can write terms into that contract, and I'll draft some examples and I'll add them to a clause library and share them with you guys a little bit later on. But it basically prevents the seller from, extending the conditions on the previously accepted offer. So in essence, you're putting pressure on that buyer. That is their deadline date, because sometimes buyers will come back and ask for an extension. I need a couple more days. I need this, I need that. But you can contract the seller to not allow that. And if they do, essentially they're in breach. There's a challenge, and a number of avenues you can go. But you can strengthen your buyer's position by inserting a couple of those little terms. Have you had experience with that at all? Jen, you've written a few backup offers?
I've only written one backup offer.
Okay.
And it did get accepted. The other offer was subject to the sale of their property.
Okay.
But a time clause that they couldn't accept another offer for, I think it was a month. So yeah, we held tight, and that deal ended up falling apart and ours got accepted.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. There's a lot of standard terms and standard clauses in web forms, but we do have the ability to be a little bit creative in drafting sort of terms and such with respect to benefiting our clients. And the key is just to make it really clear and really concise. And when we create them, just avoid ambiguity and avoid gray. Just be very, very specific as to what the intent of it is. Let's see. I don't know if Ron's off the phone. I'm sure he's got some experiences and stuff like that to share on. But anybody else feeding off of Mark's backup offer conversation? Any challenges that anybody wants to share? We'll get into a little bit of conflict discussion in a bit, but
I have a client that turned from a cheerleader to a hater because I couldn't see through their carpet. My x-ray vision's off today. I should have eaten like a pound or two of carrots, I guess, before I did the walkthrough.
Yeah, it is challenging sometimes, and as fun as this work can be, we definitely have to learn to have a little bit of a thick skin sometimes. And often when something goes sideways, you can do everything right. You can make sure you give the proper advice and you have the proper documentation and you've gone through all the processes. you know, on occasion, there will be a client or somebody that turns around and just starts blaming you for everything that's going on. And, you know, in Andy's particular case, you know, there was a bit of an issue that came up after the fact. You know, he had provided all of the right advice with respect to, you know, inspections and conditions and processes and that kind of stuff. And the client made the decision to move forward in a particular direction. And, you know, after the fact, there were some discoveries when a renovation was started. And, you know, now, of course, it's all Andy's fault for not knowing what was going on behind the scenes. And that can be really tough, you know, on a personal level. You know, we're human, and, you know, we want to make sure that everybody's taken care of and everybody's looked after to the best of our ability. But there definitely will be some times where, you know, it's difficult to, you know, find a path forward, or even just to try and satisfy that customer. So it's a tricky one. Does anybody have any sort of after the fact stories that they want to share, or how they dealt with it?
So I've only been the buyer's agent once, and it was that same backup offer. In our inclusions was a big RV, like a carport in the back. And when they took possession, the RV port wasn't there.
Okay.
So my clients lost it.
Yeah.
I was like, I physically did not go on that property and take the tent down. But anyways, the sellers had moved to Australia, so there wasn't really much that we could do about it. We tried to get lawyers involved, but they were like, it'll be like getting blood from a stone
Yeah.
once they're gone. So yeah, we ended up letting it go, but yeah, it was stressful for a bit.
And so the sellers had moved or relocated. I guess the option there, you know, for your client, you know, there is a, you know, a small claim option or a performance option as far as the contract. And the challenge with a lot of that kind of stuff is when you look at inclusions and chattels, you know, as far as the contract goes, there's no dollar value associated with included items. You know, the full purchase price is for land and improvements. And while these items are included, unless there is a specific dollar identified for each of those items, none of the money technically goes to those items. They're just left behind contractually, right?
Right. Yeah. Even their lawyer had said, you know, it could drag on and on and on. And once they're in Australia, it's going to be way more difficult to get anything from these people. So
Yeah.
yeah, in the end, we just ended up biting the bullet and letting it go. But yeah,
Which
they
is
weren't
hard.
very happy with me.
No. Well, and you know what, that brings up a good point too. When, you know, when we're filling out those included items, you know, the fridge, stove, washer, dryer, dishwasher, window coverings, all that kind of stuff, anything that is not physically attached or bolted to or secured to the house or the property is essentially a chattel, and it's an item that comes with, but as mentioned, it doesn't in the contract have a dollar value assigned to it, unless you specifically write, you know, a dollar reference for each of those items, then value can be applied. But when it comes to registration, the full purchase price is 100% assigned to the home and the property, not any included items. Andy?
Yeah, in Jen's situation there, hypothetically speaking, if she had continued with you know, upholding the terms of the contract and taking it to court, what kind of outcomes might she have been able, or remedies might she have been able to secure for her client? Like, could she go for specific performance to ensure that they, you know, ended up putting the carport back or whatever, or
Yeah.
you know, damages, and on top of that, what about the cost of bringing legal action forward? Would the you know, the people who are in breach of contract be on the hook for any legal bills, you know, that come out of this action too?
Yeah, and the answer is probably. Usually if there's a claim for performance or a claim for items that are missing that, you know, has an association, if you're out of pocket or you're incurring expenses to enforce a contractual obligation that has been neglected or has not been fulfilled, any expenses you incur can be included in the claim that you're trying to pursue.
Good to know.
In this case, you know, was it one of those little like pop-up garages kind of thing, those little portable?
No, it wasn't a pop-up. It was like the heavy duty metal frame with
Mhm.
the
With the
uh,
tarp
like
kind of thing over
canvas.
it? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, it must have been like maybe 12 by 30 feet. Like it was a pretty big one. They had a fifth wheel parked under it.
Yeah,
And then my
yeah.
clients also had a fifth wheel. So that's why they wanted it left behind.
Yeah.
But then in the case of them moving to Australia, like, is it because they're in a different jurisdiction, or like, why would that be such a big deal?
Well, contacting them for one, you know, making a connection, it's very hard to make contact often, especially when people, you know, relocate to another country. Sometimes they can be very difficult to connect, and really it's the cost. You know, what's the value of that, and almost it's a business decision. You know, there's been countless cases, you know, whereby realtors have just decided to, you know, cut a check for $500 or $1,000 to remedy the situation. And sometimes that can be dealt with between, you know, the listing realtor and the selling realtor. And, you know, it's really just, you know, what's the value of the issue and how much is it going to cost to try and remedy it. So then it really becomes a business decision sometimes. Often, you know, in the past, you know, you look at scenarios, you know, like you look at a rental property, for example, and you take your client through and you're looking at all of the appliances. You're looking at the fridge, the stove, the washer, the dryer, the dishwasher. In particular with rental properties, we don't always know that the appliances we're looking at are the appliances that the seller is selling. It's not uncommon well, it's not super common, but it has happened in cases where, you know, a tenant has replaced the washer and dryer with their own, and then put the seller's appliances in storage, for example. So you walk through and you see this beautiful, you know, Samsung front loader, you know, washer, dryer, high efficiency, all that kind of stuff. We write in fridge, stove, washer, dryer in the contract, and then on possession, we walk into the house and it's got your, you know, your base model, you know, Inglis with one big dial kind of thing. It's a completely different thing. So, you know, that kind of stuff, and, you know, when we're looking at included items and stuff, you know, best practice is always to, you know, specifically identify. It's pretty common to see fridge, stove, washer, dryer, dishwasher, but there are certain times when you want to make sure that you know, you're a little bit more specific, and rental properties, for example, are very it's, you know, we should be a little bit extra diligent in making inquiries to find out if, you know, the tenant has removed a certain appliance and replaced it with their own or that kind of stuff. So the more information we can provide, you know, at a really diligent high level, you know, you're going to put, you know, washing machine, front load, Samsung model number, or whatever the description is. You don't see it a lot. Often, as I said, you know, you'll see fridge, stove, washer, dryer, dishwasher, window coverings. That's, you know, pretty typical, you know, as far as the general practice goes. But the way around that, or the way to eliminate that confusion, is to really be specific with those items that are being included.
What about that clause, you know, that the unit or the home should be in the same condition as viewed on such and such a date, you know,
Yeah.
and you can prove that, you know, there was, like, from the pictures, let's say, of the listing, you know, on the MLS, that
Mhm.
this is what it was. These were nice, beautiful stainless steel appliances, and then when I moved in, they're you know, or there are these trashy white scuffed up appliances from, you know, Valley Village all of a sudden, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that's where that gray area can come in. You know, as long as the property is substantially in the same condition, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's, you know, it's going to be the same chattel. You know, if you include fridge, stove, washer, dryer, and they change them out, unless you're specific, as mentioned, the contract doesn't necessarily have a dollar value associated with it. So, you know, the value of what's there can change, but that clause that says the property will be in substantially the same condition, you know, as viewed on X date, it allows an unspecific included items, you know, it can allow for a challenge. Generally speaking, you know, when clients are acting in good faith, you're going to know. But I will say though too that, you know, sometimes there are listing realtors that don't know, you know, with respect to rental properties or tenant occupied properties. So it's really important, you know, just to make sure, and you can identify those types of items in the contract, and very specific. And if, you know, if you identify that Samsung washing machine model number and color, and you go back and find out it's not there, then you do have, you know, significant grounds to make a claim and enforce action on the seller to make sure that that's the appliance that's provided. But if it's fridge, stove, washer, dryer, dishwasher, your seller can say, well, I provided them with a fridge, stove, washer, dryer, dishwasher, right? And it's arguable, and you know, that's it is one of those areas, you know, in contract that can be a little bit gray, but that's why they always tell us to be very specific. And if you talk to a lawyer or you talk to you know, one of the instructors when we're doing those contract boot camp courses, they will always tell you to be very, very specific, right down to the model number and color.
This is a little crazy of an example, but like in a sense, could you give someone like a dead light bulb? You know what I mean? Like you change the light bulb, put it dead, and just put it back in there. It's like, yeah, I gave you a light bulb for all the lights, but you know.
Well, so generally speaking, you know, a light bulb is probably not anything that you're gonna be overly concerned with. Light fixtures, you know, they are attached and they are affixed, and you know, they're supposed to be in proper working order or in good condition, provided that, you know, the contract allows for that. But that's not anything that anybody, I think, would ever, you know, substantiate a claim. And to be honest, you know, if I took a buyer to your house and there was a dozen light bulbs that were burnt out, I'm just going to go buy the light bulbs and make them happy, because I mean, for 20, 30 bucks, that's an easy win. Yeah. Let's see. Sorry, we got a message here. I missed that. Oh, chat's leaving. So the end result of sort of the garage scenario, you know, if you really want to be sure, be very specific, and there are avenues to collect on that, but it ultimately will come down to a business decision and whether or not it's worth proceeding. And you will find, you know, as time goes on, you know, you may be inclined sometimes to remedy a situation by, you know, eating it yourself, for example, replacing you know, an appliance or something like that. Oftentimes, you know, I've seen over the years in those situations, both realtors, you know, if it's blatant, you can come to some sort of negotiation outside of a court to make it right if the client is, you know, unmanageable, for example. So other types of conflicts, you know, we see it, and we're dealing with one in particular, you know, in the office at the moment. Challenges with other realtors. I'm sure you're all very well aware that you know, it's a generally a pretty specific type of personality for a realtor have, and sometimes the approach that some take can be a little bit all-knowing, a little bit aggressive, a little bit uncooperative and challenging when you're trying to work through or negotiate or navigate challenges, between buyers and sellers in a contract. An entrenchment sometimes can occur, and I know that there's a lot of new realtors here, but I'm sure Ron over the years has dealt with some entrenchment issues working with other realtors, whereby it's a blatant statement, or it's a blatant disregard, or it's something, but trying to work around and trying to navigate, you're doing your best to represent your client, and sometimes it can be really hard, where we have to kind of pull back a little bit from what our initial reaction and our initial thought would be, to really approach certain situations differently or alternatively. And I'm trying to, like, has there been any challenges in dealing with other realtors? Mark, I know you had said no, but have you had any personal conflicts with realtors through negotiations of a contract or anything like that you want to share? Anybody?
I didn't really have a big issue, but I felt like I was being bullied on my second offer. And I feel like it was because he knew that I was new.
Yeah.
So, and because I'm still lacking confidence, I was kind of like turtling, right? And then I'd go to my boss and be like, hey, and she's like, oh, no. So anyways, just getting reassurance from her was, yeah, but I think he was kind of stomping on me a little bit because he knew I was new.
Yeah, and that will happen, and then obviously the right thing to do is what you did, is go to and utilize and maximize the resources and the supports that you have to kind of help guide you through that situation. It's interesting though, those types of personalities they are aplenty, and we're going to come across a lot of them the more time we spend in this business. And working with them and dealing with them, I've always found I've always taken a little bit of pleasure in just sort of almost kind of like stroking the ego a little bit and making them think that they're getting this and they're getting that. But it's pretty easy if you soften the role a little bit with them, and you're just kind of you're play a little coy or play a little sheepish. It gives them the impression that they're getting what they want, but in actual fact you're actually getting what you want and what you need to do for your client. And what's beautiful about it is they never even recognize it. And
Right.
in the end, you can walk away confidently knowing that you actually got everything you were looking for, just by, sometimes it goes against the grain a little bit, because, it's a little irking, and it's a little annoying to try to feed that type of situation, but you're never going to, or it's pretty rare to go through a situation like that and change somebody's opinion or change somebody's perspective. So the approach and the angle that you take to get to the result that you're looking for, sometimes you have to swallow the pride a little bit, or
Similar to the saying, kill him with kindness.
exactly, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah,
And
I feel like if it was a year from now, that the situation would have been much different. Yeah.
it can be very effective, but and that just really just sort of emphasizes we always have to remember who we're working for. And sometimes we can get caught up in those types of situations where you and I are going to start butting heads, and I may forget who I'm working for, and you and me butting heads is not doing any justice or providing any value to the person I'm representing, because I'm not a party to this. I'm supposed to be looking after my client, not getting into, quote unquote, a pissing match with somebody else who I'm butting heads with.
Right.
Yeah. Ron, did you have any interesting stories or any just related to sort of past conflicts with other realtors and how you've worked through them? Or you're the voice of experience here, so. And
Got
you're
muted.
muted.
Hello, good morning.
Morning.
Sorry, I've been listening a little bit and I've had some distractions I've been dealing with here. But I've had certainly some interesting situations over the years. And the bottom line is you just have to do everything you can to prevent things from escalating, because when you start getting into a conflict and emotion, it can absolutely just prevent you from having a chance of representing your client's interests, and they're trying to buy the property or sell the property, whatever the case may be. But, specific stories. There's some agents I just wouldn't even take their phone call if they were to call me again. I'd pass it on to somebody else. Yeah.
Well, and you know what, that's the beauty of of growing a business and strengthening a business and having, a good network and good client is, you all will get to that point one day where you're like, I don't want to deal with this person, let's give it to the new guy.
Yeah, the managing broker, that's who gets to deal with it.
You see what we're in for, Mark?
I do get a few phone calls, but to be honest, for me, I quite enjoy, navigating like solutions and problems and kind of working through those types of challenges. So I don't know if it's, because I like the pain and the suffering or whatnot, but I do like, finding common ground and navigating through situations. I enjoy, between us, in those types of situations, I do enjoy manipulating, the other side of the table and getting them to do exactly what I want them to do, no matter what it takes. It's a bit of a personal challenge for me, but I do enjoy it. And that's probably why I do what I do. And that's probably why I've been involved in organized real estate for a long time. When you look at the boards, the provincial associations and the national associations, it's historically there has been a lot of conflict and a lot of challenge and not a lot of cooperation over the decades. And I think I will say that that's changed quite a bit, but utilizing resources and stuff is always a good thing. And my role for you guys for sure is if you're ever in these situations or you ever have a challenge or a question, never hesitate to phone or to call or to text. And it doesn't matter if it's a Monday or a Sunday or whatever day of the week it is. If it's a challenge, my role and my position is to be there for you guys, not Monday to Friday 9 to 5. My role is essentially just to be there if you need the help. So yeah,
That's awesome. So I've been forced just because of my role having become what it's become over the years. Is I'm less often the guy on the front line dealing with that agent who's being unreasonable in some way, and I'm more often in Darren's position of now trying to diffuse a situation that's arisen and figure things out. And I think in some ways, like you, Darren, it's a challenge, and I'm trying to be the problem solver. Okay, so how do we find our way out of this? And often it's just because you're coming in after the fact and you're not in the heat of the moment that the other parties are involved in, you can sit back and just listen and let people talk. And it's amazing how the emotions can change once people have had a chance to say everything they want to say. Sometimes you got to listen for a while.
yeah. I've had a lot of conversations over the years with realtors that have come into the office, with a particular problem or a particular challenge, and just having, just for you guys to have that avenue or that window or that opportunity to talk more often than not, as you're going through it and as you're talking to me about it or talking to Ron about it or talking to whoever about it, the solution or the path forward actually comes to you. It's it's not often, well, it's on occasion, you come to us looking for a particular route or a direction, and sometimes all we got to do is let you talk. And the beautiful part is when you guys, it all just sort of comes to you, and it comes with a little bit of experience and a little bit of time and a little bit of knowledge as far as the profession goes. But you'd be quite surprised how many times People just kind of come to the conclusion on their own, just working through it and stepping back, coming out of that, you know, that heat of the moment that Ron just touched on. You know, if you're getting there, there's never an opportunity where you shouldn't take 5 if you need to take 5. This business, you know, it's not a 9 to 5 business, and you know, we are, you know, we're the product of our own doing and our own happening. And if you know, if we find ourselves in a situation, you know, the last thing we want you guys to be is sitting at home at 12:30, you know, 1 o'clock at night, not being able to sleep because of a particular incident or a particular situation. It just makes things more and more challenging. So understanding that you've got some avenues and you've got some roads and you've got some resources that you can take to try to navigate, you know, those conflicting situations is really important. And then, you know, finding ways and finding the ability to disconnect and take 5 minutes, take 24 hours, you know, take a couple hours when you're overwhelmed. Having the knowledge and the understanding that you need to take 5 and you are actually able to will be really beneficial. Because when you're heated and your mind is going a mile a minute and you're back and forth and you're back and forth, you'll grind and you'll try to push through. But if you take that hour or you take that 2 hours or you take that 24 hours or whatever it is and come back to the table, your production will actually increase. Once things have settled, you'll be far more effective and you'll have a much clearer head and be able to get where you need to go with a lot less effort and a lot less stress when you have a clear head on it. Any comments on that? Any thoughts on that? Okay. What you know, we can talk a little bit more, but I mean, let's go around the room. Like, you know, we had a little bit of an intro. Mark, you gave us a little insight to sort of, you know, what your first week has been like. Andy, you touched base on a challenge that you've had. Is there anything sort of positive, anything sort of uplifting that you've had a note on this week, or?
Yeah, you know, I met a longtime friend of mine from Vancouver that I hadn't seen in a long time, and he actually found me again from Facebook and Instagram. I've been kind of branding myself out alongside the Nail Skate group, and he saw my new branding and stuff online, and he reached out to me and told me that he's been thinking about moving to the island for a couple of years now. So he actually came out and, you know, I got him set up with auto emails, and he's interested in buying like a bunch of land with like some other people. I got him set up with mortgage brokers. So that's, you know, that's really cool seeing, you know, this work that I've been doing kind of come to fruition and getting a bit of self-gen leads, which is great, you know, because up till now, a lot of it, the main source has been the group, which I love, you know, nurturing, but it's also nice to, you know, bring in my own hard work and hopefully make some friends happy at the same time, you know. So
Yeah.
that was cool, you know. That I'm trying to focus more on the people that I can make happy now and try to focus less on the ones that I can't really do much about. And, you know, I'm fortunate that I have Ron and you, Darren, and a lot of the you know, more tenured agents in the group to kind of give me the advice I need in these situations, because like I take that stuff kind of personally. You know, I would never accuse people of things that they didn't deserve to be, you know, accused of, and it just really irks me because I don't really have enemies, and I do everything in my power to ensure that I don't have people who don't like me. And so I kind of do take it a bit personally, and I know that you have to have thick skin in this business, which I do to a certain extent, but it feels like a personal jab, you know. It's like, hey, don't be pointing the finger at me if I don't deserve it, you know. I'm not going to take it, right?
Yeah.
But I really want to salvage the relationship somehow, and hopefully in a you know, in a professional and sympathetic way, just, kind of point the finger back at her, make her see the error of her ways that, hey, this wasn't my fault, maybe give her a couple days to calm down. And I just don't know, I wish is there something I could have done differently to avoid this to begin with? 100%. Like, I don't know. I don't think so. Is there something I can do now to salvage a relationship? I don't know. But you just keep forging ahead and doing the best you can, and hope that people see that and appreciate it.
It is a tough situation, and allowing them a couple of days to cool off might be the way to go. Cooler heads do prevail, but as we talked about a little bit, it is tough, and you sometimes do have to have a little bit of a thick skin. There'll be all sorts of opportunities and challenges along the way, and unfortunately we do our best, and we strive to be top level and professional. And when somebody is angry and somebody is blaming, oftentimes they can't see directly what's in front of them. Accepting a little bit of responsibility for the decisions that they've made, without trying to blame somebody else can be really challenging, especially when they're angry. Anger is a very powerful emotion. It can be blinding sometimes. When somebody doesn't take responsibility for an action, and where we are and how we present ourselves out there to the public, we are an easy target. We're really easy to blame, and it's the simplest way forward for a lot of people. So that thick skin is definitely something that you kind of have to grow and develop a little bit.
I'm going to sign out. I'm starting the really trusted training at 10.
Awesome. Okay.
I'm also in that.
See you in there.
Oh,
Yeah,
awesome.
no,
And Ron, I have a question for you.
Please go ahead.
Will I have access to a barbecue tomorrow evening for my appetizer?
Access to a bar.
Or should I bring something simple like a salad? I was going to do prosciutto wrapped asparagus, but they'll need to be barbecued.
Could you do them in the oven?
You could, yeah, but I'm doing like 100. Because how many people will be at the barbecue? Like
Ryan brought a barbecue to baseball. Maybe he'll be willing to bring it tomorrow.
or should I just keep it simple and bring something cold?
So actually, I think I have a second barbecue I can haul out. And as far as an appy, I mean, you'll be doing those before I would be doing most of the protein, I would think. So that should be fine.
Because like they don't take long. It's just the
Well,
crisping up the
I think
prosciutto.
that'll work out.
I think we can make it work.
Okay.
It sounds good.
And as for lawn games, should I bring some lawn games?
I have a couple, but
Like I have cornhole boards
I've got that.
and
I
you've got
some.
too?
I got some lawn darts from the 80s.
Oh my god.
Those
Okay.
can
Oh, wow.
until at least 10 p.m. And then I also have a game called Coob. I don't know if you've
Oh,
ever
good.
heard of Coob. It's like there's posts that go along the back, and then you have to throw sticks and knock them out. It's kind of cool because 12 people can play at the same time.
I don't know if I have enough room, but bring it and
Okay.
throw it in the
Perfect.
car.
Awesome. Okay, well, you
What
guys
time
enjoy
does
your
the
day,
barbecue start?
and we'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.
4:30.
What time is that? 4:30. The barbecue starts
No, the barbecue starts at 6.
at 6.
Really?
Okay.
After golf.
Golf's 4 hours on a par 3.
It's not 4 hours. It's going to take us 2.5 to 3 hours to get everyone through the golf course.
I agree. I'm not the best
So-
golfer.
Is there like a schedule for golfers? Because like I don't want to show up at 2 and not golf till 3:30.
I'm going to try to put together a schedule now. I just got given a list of everybody who's coming. So
Cool.
the problem with that is if I tell people they're golfing at 3 and they don't show up until 20 after 3, which always happens. It just screws us up. So bottom line is,
This is a group of realtors. Shouldn't they be timely? Like,
I'm having them send out an email right now that tells people to arrive by 2:30. And the first people who arrive will be the first people to play.
Yeah.
The longest wait,
if you're taking a request, I'd like to be in the last pairing.
the last pairing.
Yeah,
We'll golf together. We could have a showdown.
sure. Yeah, I'm only bringing my wedges and my putter and 1 ball, so you might win.
Well, I'm bringing probably just 2 wedges and a putter, not all 4 wedges.
Wouldn't it make sense to have the pros like go first so they're not waiting on us slowpoke like handicap people? Like,
I think the course will have all types of people on it. So
It's
I'll just be like, play
there
ahead.
will
come
be
on."
there will be an option of drinking while you're waiting.
There you go. I'm showing up at 1 then.
Well, a little side game.
you're gonna tailgate it before the golf.
I haven't had to manage it quite to this level before. You know, in the past, we've had 16 to 20 people.
How
and
many?
it's Been a pretty casual, easy event. Now we have more golfers than we have holes and spaces, and it's not even a shotgun. So we're gonna get through it. It'll be fun.
Can we
So-
start a shotgun? Can we line them up that way? They want to let that?
Well, there will be other golfers out there. It'll just delay us starting.
Oh, I see. Okay, yeah.
So we'll be sending out some groups of 5.
All right.
Well, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Yeah, I gotta head to
You and I
the
should have a conversation, but you're not at the office, are you,
Me?
Who?
No.
Andy?
No, I'm not at the office.